Olivia Carter was expecting a simple, uneventful flight from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. First class, plenty of time to prepare for a keynote at the biggest business conference of the year. But as soon as she stepped on the plane, something fell off, like the air itself had thickened. Sitting right in seat 2A, the exact spot she'd reserved weeks ago, was a man named David Collins, a white man in his early 40s, lounging with a smug grin, swirling a glass of expensive wine like he owned the place. Without looking up, he sneered, "Ma'am, this isn't your seat, coach is back there." Olivia's calm voice cut through the tension like a knife. "This is my seat." David waved her off like she was an annoying fly, like she didn't belong there. But Olivia wasn't just any passenger. She was the CEO of a thriving tech company she built from the ground up. Yet here she was on a flight she'd paid for in full, facing cold discrimination right in first class. Around them, passengers froze, flight attendants exchanged uneasy looks, and the cabin fell into a hush that screamed louder than any words injustice was happening. She didn't raise her voice, didn't shout or argue. Instead, Olivia reached into her jacket and pulled out her phone. She knew this moment was bigger than just a seat. It was about respect, fairness, and human dignity. Let me back up a sec. The flight, DL 1986 from Atlanta to Washington, was supposed to be routine. Olivia, focused on her keynote, walked confidently down the jetway with her sleek carry-on, her expression steady but thoughtful. The first-class cabin gleamed under soft lighting, leather seats immaculate, the perfect setting for a business leader preparing to make waves. Then she saw David in 2A, perfectly dressed in a tailored suit, blonde hair slicked back, a smirk that screamed entitlement. He sipped wine without a care, eyes flicking to Olivia with pure disdain. "Excuse me, sir," Olivia said softly but firmly. "You're in my seat. I reserved 2A. David finally looked up, icy eyes mocking her like she'd insulted his entire existence. After a pause, loud enough for all nearby to hear, he spat, "Ma'am, this cabin isn't for people like you. Head back to coach." The words hit like a punch. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Business leaders paused their quiet talks, and a young flight attendant froze, face tight with embarrassment and indecision. Everyone was watching, some with sympathy, some curiosity, some uncomfortable bias. Olivia felt their gazes like 1,000 needles, but she refused to crumble. Instead, she inhaled deeply, lifted her chin, and calmly dialed the one number she knew would handle this quietly but effectively: her assistant, Emma. Her voice was steady when she spoke into the phone. "Emma, I'm on flight DL 1986 to Washington. Someone's in my seat and refuses to move. I don't want a scene, but please handle it." She slipped the phone away and stood tall, not looking at David, but close enough for him to feel her resolve. The cabin was tense, breaths held, waiting to see what would happen next. David, sensing all eyes on him, gave another long sip of wine, as if to say he couldn't care less. Power and privilege dripped off him like cologne. This was a game he thought he always won. A young flight attendant, mustering courage, stepped forward, voice shaking but polite. "Mr. Collins, could you please check your boarding pass again? There seems to be a mix-up." David's irritation was immediate, his words cold and deliberate. "I'm not mistaken. I'm a platinum member. I always sit here." Olivia remained silent, calm on the outside but burning inside. She had faced prejudice before in boardrooms, at meetings, countless times when underestimated because she was a black woman leading a major company. This wasn't just about a seat. It was a daily battle for respect. Around them, whispers grew louder. Phones discreetly came out to film. A woman nearby muttered to her husband, "Did you hear how he talked to her? That was disgusting." He looked away, embarrassed but silent. The tension thickened. David rattled his wine glass, a subtle but sharp taunt that said, "I'm untouchable." The first-class cabin, usually a place of quiet luxury, felt like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Then, just when it seemed no one would intervene, a figure appeared from the cockpit: Captain Marcus Hayes, a tall black man with over 30 years flying experience, known for his calm command and integrity. His presence immediately shifted the atmosphere. Captain Hayes glanced at Olivia with quiet understanding, then fixed his gaze on David. "Sir, please present your boarding pass." David's arrogance cracked. "Do you know who I am? I'm a Platinum VIP. I fly this route every week. Your system's wrong, not me." Marcus's voice was steady and firm, no hint of hesitation. "Mr. Collins, this isn't a personal request. It's flight safety protocol. We need to verify your seat assignment. Please cooperate." David's face flushed with anger, his hands trembling slightly, but he refused to comply. "You expect me to give up my seat for someone like her?" The cabin went silent, the struggle between entitlement and justice laid bare. Olivia watched, her gaze unwavering, appreciating Marcus's firm stance. This was about more than a seat. It was a test of character, fairness, and dignity. David scoffed and laughed, a bitter, mocking sound. "You're going to kick me off this plane because of her?" he said loudly, emphasizing her with disdain. Captain Hayes stood tall, calm as ever. "Mr. Collins, this flight will not depart until every passenger is in their reserved seat. This is about safety and respect for everyone." Then, with quiet authority, Marcus dropped the bombshell. "Miss Carter isn't just any passenger. She's the CEO of Carter Technologies, a major partner of this airline. Your refusal to vacate her seat is a sign of disrespect to an important customer." That hit David like a tidal wave. His confident mask fell away, panic flickering in his eyes as the entire cabin watched him unravel. The arrogance drained, replaced by shame. Passengers, previously silent or uneasy, now looked at David with a mix of reproach and satisfaction, the bully finally exposed. David struggled to regain composure, voice faltering. This is absurd, but the weight of the moment crushed his excuses. He was defeated not just by protocol, but by the undeniable truth of justice standing firm. Olivia's expression remained composed. No triumph, just steady strength. She nodded subtly to Captain Hayes, grateful for his intervention. The cabin door opened again. This time 2 security officers stepped in. "Mr. Collins," one said firmly, "you may leave peacefully or be escorted off the aircraft." David stood abruptly, shoving his seat back hard enough to startle nearby passengers. Gathering his belongings in a frenzy of anger and humiliation, he avoided Olivia's gaze but muttered bitterly just loud enough for her to hear. "You think you've won? People like you are just a fad." Olivia said nothing, her silence a powerful rebuke. Passengers watched, admiration and respect in their eyes for her quiet dignity. As David was escorted away, a young woman discreetly filmed the entire exit, knowing this moment would ripple far beyond the plane. Captain Hayes approached Olivia, offering a rare, humble gesture, lowering himself to her eye level. "I'm truly sorry for what you endured. I have 2 daughters studying law, and I hope they learn the strength and dignity you showed today." Olivia smiled gently. "I only wanted what I paid for what I deserved." He nodded, and with a composed stride, returned to the cockpit, leaving a lasting impression of leadership and justice. The cabin settled into calm, but something had changed. Passengers exchanged knowing glances, the lesson clear: dignity wins. Olivia stared out the window, clouds drifting by like swirling thoughts in her mind. She knew this story wouldn't fade quietly. It was already sparking conversations far beyond this plane. Sure enough, moments after takeoff, a 1-minute video went viral on social media capturing the tense standoff, Captain Hayes' firm command, and Olivia's unshakable composure. Hashtags like "respect for Olivia" and "no room for racism" trended worldwide, with millions watching and sharing. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a stark example of racial and gender discrimination even in high-powered environments. David Collins' past behavior was dug up and scrutinized, revealing a pattern of entitlement and prejudice, while Olivia was lauded as a beacon of grace under fire. Public figures, from attorneys to business leaders, praised her courage. Yet, amid the acclaim, criticism surfaced. Some accused Olivia of making a scene or questioned why she hadn't just taken another seat, exposing the deep-rooted biases still alive. Captain Hayes became a hero too, celebrated for his integrity and decisive leadership. The Pilots Association released a statement praising his actions as the gold standard of airline professionalism. Under mounting pressure, the airline CEO issued a public apology, took responsibility, and suspended David's travel privileges for a year, a rare, firm stance against discrimination. Olivia received countless interview requests but chose to speak selectively, focusing on advocating for systemic change rather than personal fame. She met privately with airline leadership, urging comprehensive anti-bias training, anonymous reporting systems, and clear consequences for misconduct, pushing beyond words to action. David's world unraveled. Isolated at work, scrutinized by colleagues, his reputation tarnished. The power he once wielded was slipping through his fingers, a harsh lesson that privilege does not grant immunity. Meanwhile, Olivia's influence grew. Tech giants invited her to advise on diversity initiatives, and her message of self-worth and speaking out resonated across communities. Thousands shared stories inspired by her courage, from a law student finding her voice in class to surgeons and entrepreneurs challenging stereotypes. Olivia never sought to be a symbol, but her story became a powerful reminder that dignity and resilience can spark movements. Weeks later, on another flight, Olivia caught the nervous glance of a young black girl entering first class, unsure if she belonged. Meeting her eyes, Olivia smiled warmly, a silent message. You belong. You can go anywhere you choose. The girl's hesitation melted into confidence, a small victory in a long journey. As Olivia leaned back and gazed at the endless sky, she reflected on the fight ahead. The right to be heard, respected, and valued is fundamental, and every voice matters. Her story isn't over. It's a call to action. So what do you think? How should we confront injustice when it hides in plain sight? Have you ever faced a moment where standing your ground changed everything? Share your thoughts below. Let's keep this conversation alive. If Olivia's story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that challenge, inspire, and ignite change. Remember, you belong wherever you choose to be.